Look at lesson 6, random numbers. So this is a prediction, again, we're doing here for the first lesson. And we're looking at this code segment. So we have a background that's tomato, so probably a red background. So we're going to kind of predict what we think is going to happen here. And then we have fill, and then orange, and then we have an ellipse. So we're going to have a background that's probably a red, like a tomato, and an ellipse that's going to be orange. But now we have this new code block here that's called random number. It says 200 to 400, and it's in the X location. So we can make an assumption that in this X location, this random number, when we run the code, it's going to randomly pick a number here between 200 and 400. And that's kind of what random numbers do. You kind of tell it this is going to be our small program that we're going to run inside of this, or a function. And then it's going to, you tell it what numbers you're going to pick between. So it says 200 to 400. What I would guess is the X location every time we run is going to pick between 200 and 400. So let's go ahead, and that's what I'm going to say it's going to do. It's the ellipse will show up between X location 200, and 400. So let's just go ahead and run that. And now we see it here. And notice the X is like 262. And then 387. 249, right around in there. So you'll see it'll never go less than 200, and it'll never go more than 400. So it's going to stay between here and like over here. Okay, and it's going to keep just showing up at different spots every time we run it. Okay, so that's how this works here with the prediction. Hopefully that helped you, and good luck on your coding. Take a look at 6.2 here. So random numbers. So this is a new block that we're seeing, and we kind of talked a little bit about this in the kind of the guessing thing of understanding what the new block is going to do. Essentially what random numbers does is you have this new block called random numbers. If you make your drawings with random numbers, it will look different every time you run the program. So if we look down here, right now random numbers is choosing between 200 and 400. And if I show the grid here, what's happening is if it goes from 200, which is right here, over to 400, the circle will keep showing up along this area. So if I hit run, and keep hitting run, it's going to show up from basically here all the way to this side. And what happens is with random number is in this ellipse that we have here in the code, essentially what's happening is the X location, this right here, this is the Y location, the 200, and then the width and the height. So this X location, every time I run the program, depending on what numbers I type in here, in this case it's 200 and 400, it's going to randomly pick a number between 200 and 400. And every time it runs, it'll pick it and move it along this depending on what number it is. So like this one right here is all the way over to 400, so it picked 400 at that time. The next time it's all the way over here, so it's probably like, 264, something like that. And then, you keep picking, and here's another one in the middle, roughly probably 336. So what we want to do with this activity, it says change the numbers inside the random number so the ellipse can appear anywhere horizontally along the screen. So instead of just here in the middle over to the side, what we now want to do is go all the way over here from this side, which is 0, all the way over to this side, which is 400. So pretty easy to do. All we want to do is change the parameters here of random number. So instead of 200, we want it to go all the way over to this side. So we're just going to go ahead and remove 200, make it 0. And when we hit reset, now it will eventually start moving them over here. There we go. So this one's 50. So it'll randomly pick that each time a new spot. This is basically how random numbers works, how the calculator works for this. Think of this for a game, very helpful for a game. You have a character that you want to show up at on the screen, but you don't want it to show up at the same place every time. That's kind of what's happening with these. You see this with games a lot, is it will randomly pick a new location where that character is going to show up. Okay, so this is how we want it to do this. Random numbers are incredibly important when it comes to programming They're really a very helpful thing when designing games. Hope this helps you with your coding, and good luck on the next activity. 3 for random numbers of code.org. So this one, we're basically just adding another random number. So we did this in the previous activity where we added a random number for this sun that is moving along the x-axis. Well, now what we're going to do is actually add in one for the y-coordinate. So it says make the ellipse appear at random y-coordinates. Drag out a random number block to the y parameter. So if we run it right now, it's staying along the y axis. Okay, so it's just staying at this point of the y at 200. What we want to do now is we want to actually, instead of having this be 200, we want to put a random number in there and have it be able to go up and down as well. So the way to do that, you just go to math. We're going to drag random number in there. And you can do that for any of these, but we're just going to focus on the y coordinates right now. And so what they want to be able to do is, if you notice here, it says drag out the random block to the ellipse's y parameter. Update the parameters of the random number block to match the height of the screen. So we know from our grid here that it starts at 0, 0 and goes to 400, 400. So just like what we did with the x, we're going to do this as well and do 0 and then 400. Okay, so now when we run this, it will just show up randomly anywhere along the screen. Okay, not just along one axis. Okay, hopefully that helps you with this, and good luck with your coding. Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to focus on activity 4 of lesson 6 for random numbers. So this one we're actually working with a face here. We're going to change the size of the eyes. It says variables can be assigned to random numbers too. Notice on here we have a variable called eye size, and it looks like we're applying it to these two ellipses down here. There's eye size here and here, as well as here and here. So those would be width and height for one ellipse and width and height for the other ellipse. So that would probably be for these two right here. So this makes it really easy. We could put random number into each of these, but the problem with that is if we put a random number here for eye size and here and here and here, and we pick the numbers that we want it to be, it's going to keep changing them all the time. They won't match, and that's not something that we want to do. We actually want to keep the eyes, while the sizes are going to change, we want them to actually be consistent between the two of them. So what we're going to do is do a random number here. We'll just kind of demonstrate this here for you. So we're going to change this. It says 1 to 10. Let's actually make this, I think that might be a little bit too small. The eyes are going to be like, that was probably 1, and then now they're this size. So let's actually make this like 10, and let's go up to 50. Okay, so when we keep running this, you can see that the eyes are changing. Okay, if we had applied this down here and took out eye size and put random number here, which we could do, and do 10 to 50, and we did that for all 4 of these, it potentially could be that the width in this one ends up being 10 and the height in this one ends up being 20, and then this one ends up being like 50 and 40 or something like that, because of dependent upon the random number that each of those picked, and they're all different. And so that's really going to make this not look very good. Okay, so what we can do is with a variable, we can take, a variable here, make that variable is going to randomly generate a number, and that number that is generated is going to be placed in these 4, and it'll be the same for all 4, and that's how you keep this consistent. So what we're going to do is use random number within the variable so that that number that's randomly picked between 10 and 50 will be placed down here, and it will be the same for all 4 of these spots, and that's just how you keep them looking consistent. Okay, hopefully that helps you with your coding, and good luck.